All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into the world of knowledge graphs
Oh, yeah.
and LLMs. You know,
LLMs.
those large language models everyone's talking about.
Right.
Specifically, we're looking at a really interesting problem. How do we get LLMs to retrieve precise information from these massive knowledge graphs?
Yeah.
And our guide for all this is a research paper called CypherBench,
Hmm.
towards precise retrieval over full-scale modern knowledge graphs in the LLM era.
Catchy title.
I think this is going to be super interesting, especially if you've ever thought about how to make LLMs, well, smarter,
Mm-hmm.
more accurate when they're dealing with really complex info.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a challenge that researchers have been working on for a while now.
For sure.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, though, maybe we should make sure we're all on the same page about knowledge graphs.
Yeah, knowledge graphs,
Yeah.
not exactly something everyone talks about every day.
True.
But maybe after this deep dive, they should be...
Haha, maybe. So, in the simplest terms, imagine a huge network of facts,
Oh.
all connected.
Okay.
Instead of just having, like, a jumble of text documents, a knowledge graph organizes information in a way that shows not just the facts, but also the relationships between them.
So like almost like a massive concept map,
Yeah.
but for everything.
Exactly. And that structure, that's key.
Okay.
It lets us ask really complex questions, ones that would be almost impossible to answer if you were just searching through text.
Right.
Like, imagine trying to find out the average height of all the point guards who've ever played for the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, wow.
Good luck finding that just by going through web pages.
Yeah, that would be...
Nightmare.
Yeah.
With a knowledge graph, though,
Yeah.
you could find that answer.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
the graph understands how players and their positions and their heights are all linked.
That's amazing.
It's powerful.
Really powerful, yeah.
But this research paper we're looking at, it basically says that LLMs, as smart as they are,
Right.
they aren't quite masters of these knowledge graphs yet.
Interesting. Why is that? What makes them so hard for LLMs to deal with?
Well, it's kind of like
Yeah.
asking someone to navigate a city using a map written in a language they barely understand.
Oh, I see.
The way these knowledge graphs are built,
Yeah.
especially the massive ones like Wikidata, it's just not very LLM friendly.
Okay.
There are a few reasons for this.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's break it down.
All right. The first challenge is the sheer size and complexity of their schemas.
Schemas.
Yeah, think of a schema like a blueprint for the information.
Okay.
Wikidata, for example, it aims to be this comprehensive knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wants to have everything.
Wow.
Which means it ends up with these huge schemas
Okay.
with millions of entity types and thousands of relationship types.
Oh, wow.
It's just overwhelming, even for the most advanced LLMs.
So it's like trying to, I don't know, fit the entire Library of Congress into a single filing cabinet or something.
No, yeah, something like that.
That's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so that's the first challenge.
The second one's about language.
Okay.
These knowledge graphs.
Yeah.
They use these things called resource identifiers, or IRIs.
Okay.
They're basically codes used to represent the entities and relationships.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to ask, like, what eats a particular type of spider?
Yeah.
But instead of using words, you have to use this long string of code
Oh,
that only a computer could understand.
So it's like trying to have a conversation in code.
Exactly. That complexity just makes it super hard for LLMs to get information
Right.
from these RDF knowledge graphs.
Okay, so we've got the massive size, we've got the code problem.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Well, then there's overlapping relation types.
What does it mean?
So in Wikidata,
Yeah.
you might find a bunch of different ways to say the same thing. Think about how many ways you could say start date.
Okay.
You could have start date for a movie, inception date for a company,
Uh-huh.
date of first performance for a play.
Right, yeah.
To us, those differences are clear,
Yeah.
but for an LLM, it's confusing.
It's like all the same thing.
Right.
Okay. So it's not just the amount of information, it's also that it's not standardized.
Yeah, exactly. And the last challenge we'll talk about today is the lack of normalization in Wikidata.
Normalization.
There aren't strict rules about units or data types.
Oh, I see.
You might have height in centimeters in one entry, feet in another, maybe even some typos.
Oh, no.
And that inconsistency can mess things up.
Yeah.
When LLMs are trying to do calculations or comparisons.
Be like,
Like what?
trying to bake a cake.
Yeah.
And some ingredients are in cups, some are in grams.
Yeah.
Some are just a handful.
Haha, a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why working with these RDF knowledge graphs can be such a pain for LLMs.
Okay, so these RDF knowledge graphs, they're kind of a mess.
Kinda.
So have researchers been looking at other ways to help LLMs deal with all this structured information?
Oh, yeah. One big area is knowledge base question answering,
Okay.
KBQA.
KBTQA.
The goal there is to build systems that can answer questions using information stored in knowledge bases.
That sounds promising,
Right.
but this paper, it seems to say that KDQA isn't quite the perfect solution.
Right.
Why not?
Well, a lot of KBQA approaches,
Yeah.
they work great in simple situations, but they run into trouble when things get complex.
It's like with real-world knowledge graphs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some might assume you already know the exact entities involved, which isn't always the case.
Right.
Others might have trouble with questions that involve complicated calculations.
Oh, okay.
It's like they're playing on easy mode,
Right.
but the real world is hard mode.
That makes sense.
A KBQA system that can't handle a question like, what's the average lifespan of animals that eat rabbits? That's not going to be that useful.
No, not really. So if KBQA isn't the solution,
Yeah.
what are these researchers proposing? What's their big idea?
That's where things get really interesting. Instead of making LLMs deal with these big, messy RDF knowledge graphs directly,
Right.
they suggest transforming them into something called property graphs.
Okay, property graphs, what are those?
So imagine instead of having one huge map for an entire continent, you break it down into smaller maps
Okay.
for specific regions or cities.
Right.
You still have all the information,
Uh-huh.
but it's organized in a way that's easier to use.
So you're saying it's about giving LLMs like a more focused, bite-sized chunk of info.
Yeah, exactly. And this switch from RDF to property graphs, it has a bunch of advantages.
Like what?
First, it simplifies the schema, so it's easier for LLMs to process.
Right.
Second, it lets us use a query language called Cypher,
Cypher.
which is way more intuitive than what's typically used for RDF knowledge graphs.
I see.
And maybe most important, it creates this kind of universal translator so LLMs can work with both RDF and property graph databases.
That's really clever. So they've got this idea of property graphs. Sounds good so far. But how do they know if it actually works?
To test it out, they built something called CypherBench.
CypherBench.
Yeah, it's a benchmark that's designed to see how well LLMs can actually do knowledge graph retrieval.
So it's like an obstacle course for LLMs.
Exactly. And it's a tough one.
Okay.
CypherBench has 11 different property graphs.
Wow.
Each one comes from Wikidata,
Okay.
but focuses on a specific area, like movies or companies.
Right.
In total, these graphs have something like 7 million entities.
7 million. That's massive.
It covers a lot of ground.
Wow. And what did they do with all that data?
They came up with over 10,000 questions.
Wow.
Specifically to test different parts of knowledge graph retrieval.
Okay.
These weren't easy questions either.
Oh.
They involved things like multi-hop reasoning,
Okay.
temporal queries, complex aggregations.
So really pushing the LLMs to their limits.
Yeah.
So they built this like ultimate obstacle course for LLMs. What happened? How'd they do?
Well, the results were pretty interesting.
Okay.
Even the most advanced LLMs, they didn't get perfect scores.
Right.
Shows there's still room for improvement.
Wow. Even the best ones struggled.
A little bit.
Yeah.
What about open source LLMs?
Yeah. What about those?
Those actually had a tougher time with CypherBench. Their accuracy was lower. It shows that while they have a lot of potential, there's still a gap
I see.
between them and the really top-tier commercial models.
Okay, so it sounds like this CypherBench is really important
It is.
for figuring out how well LLMs can work with structured information.
Yeah, it gives us a standardized way to measure things.
So it's like a benchmark
yeah.
for LLMs and knowledge graphs.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really cool. So we've talked about the challenges LLMs have with knowledge graphs and this new approach with property graphs and
Yeah.
Cypher. What does all this mean for the future of LLMs and how we use knowledge?
That's a big question.
It is. I bet our listeners are wondering about that too.
Probably. I think this research opens up a lot of possibilities.
Okay.
Imagine a future where LLMs can easily work with these huge knowledge graphs,
Yeah,
answering really complex questions that would have taken us forever to research in the past.
that's incredible.
It's about making information not just accessible, but actually understandable
That's the key.
and useful.
Yeah, that's huge. What kind of applications are we talking about? What comes to mind?
Well, think about scientific research.
Okay.
An LLM with a comprehensive knowledge graph could find hidden patterns in data,
Wow.
things we might never see on our own.
So it's not just about making research faster, it's about totally new discoveries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. But there must still be challenges, right?
Of course.
LLMs are still being developed.
Mm-hmm.
And even with all this, there's going to be a learning curve. What are some of the hurdles we still need to get over?
One of the big ones is making sure the knowledge graphs themselves are accurate,
Right.
complete, and unbiased.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Any problems in the data will show up in the answers the LLMs give.
It's like garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work going on with knowledge graph curation. It's like building a strong foundation for a house.
Got it.
If the foundation's shaky,
Yeah.
the whole thing is at risk.
What else? What other challenges do you see coming up?
Another big one is being able to understand how LLMs get their answers.
Explain that a little bit.
If an LLM gives an answer based on a knowledge graph,
Yeah.
it's not enough to just have the right answer.
Okay.
We need to know how it got there.
I see.
We need transparency.
Transparency.
So we can trust the results.
Right. It's not about just blindly trusting the machine.
Yeah.
It's about using these tools responsibly.
Exactly.
So as we move forward,
Yeah.
it's not just about the technology. It's about the ethics, too.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
I think this CypherBench research,
Uh-huh.
it's really just the beginning of what's possible.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much more to come.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too. It's a really exciting time.
It is. So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
are there any key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Let me think. One big one is that how we structure information really matters.
Okay.
If we want LLMs to reach their full potential,
Right.
just giving them tons of text won't cut it.
Yeah.
We need to give them well-organized knowledge.
Knowledge they can actually use.
Exactly. It's like the difference between giving someone a pile of bricks
Mhm.
or blueprints and instructions.
Right. Totally.
Another takeaway is about evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Benchmarks like CypherBench,
Right.
they're crucial for pushing LLMs to their limits.
Yeah. Finding out what they can really do.
Exactly. And finally, and this is probably the most important, it's not just about the technology, it's about people too.
People.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit.
We need experts to curate the knowledge, to ask the right questions,
Okay.
to make sense of the results.
It's a partnership.
It is. The more we understand how these systems work,
Mm-hmm.
the better we can use them
To solve problems.
to make new discoveries.
To understand the world better.
Yeah, all of that.
I like it. So we've got a good understanding now of the challenges
Uh-huh.
and this new approach using property graphs and Cypher.
Right.
Now, what about the real world applications?
Ah, yes, applications.
How can all this actually change our lives?
That's a great question. Let's talk about that.
Perfect.
I think you'll be surprised by what's possible.
I'm sure I will.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. The possibilities are pretty amazing.
Yeah, it feels like we're like on the edge of a whole new way of dealing with information. It makes me think differently about how I learn and solve problems.
I know what you mean.
What areas do you see these changes having the biggest impact?
Well, how about something you're passionate about?
Okay.
Education.
Education, yeah.
Imagine textbooks that aren't just static books,
Right.
but dynamic, interactive experiences.
Yeah.
Students could ask questions naturally, explore different views on a topic, go deeper into things they're interested in.
Wow, that would change everything.
It's personalized learning on a whole new level.
Instead of just memorizing facts, students could actually have a conversation with the knowledge itself,
Right.
guided by an LLM that understands how concepts connect.
Exactly. And the LLM could tailor the experience for each student.
That's incredible.
It could see where they're struggling and offer help, or give them more challenging stuff if they're getting it quickly.
It's like having a personal tutor all the time.
Yeah, kind of.
What about the business world? How could this change the way companies work?
Think about market research.
Okay.
Companies spend so much time and money trying to understand consumers, competitors, the whole industry. An LLM connected to a big knowledge graph could analyze all that data in real time,
Wow.
spotting new trends and giving insights to the people making decisions.
That would be a game changer for staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And it's not just market research.
Yes.
LLMs could revolutionize things like risk assessment, fraud detection, even
Oh.
supply chain stuff.
So basically every part of a business.
Pretty much. It's about making smarter decisions using data.
Powerful stuff. What about healthcare? That seems like an area where accurate information is super important.
You're right. In healthcare, having the right information can literally save lives.
Yeah.
Imagine an LLM that helps doctors diagnose rare diseases
Okay.
by looking at a patient's symptoms, their history, and all the latest research.
Like having the world's top specialists on every case.
And it's not just diagnosis.
No.
LLMs could personalize treatment plans, speed up drug discovery,
Wow.
even help patients understand their own health better.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think about the positive impact this could have.
Yeah, across so many areas.
It feels like we're on the brink of a knowledge revolution,
It really does.
one that could change how we live, learn, and work.
It's exciting. But
Yeah.
we need to be careful.
What do you mean?
As powerful as these technologies are, we need to be responsible.
Right. Ethical considerations.
Exactly.
What are some of the ethical issues that come to mind when you think about this future with LLMs and knowledge graphs?
Bias is a big one.
Bias. Okay.
LLMs learn from huge data sets.
Mm-hmm.
And if those data sets have biases in them,
Right.
those biases will show up in the LLM's output.
So it could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcome.
Exactly, especially in areas like hiring or lending or even criminal justice.
That's a scary thought.
It is. We need to be really careful about identifying and fixing those biases.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the data and the people behind it.
Yeah, we need to be critical and ask the tough questions.
What else? What other ethical concerns are there?
Transparency and accountability are important too.
Explain that.
As LLMs become more advanced, we use them more.
Yeah.
We need to understand how they're making decisions.
Right.
And who's responsible when things go wrong.
That makes sense.
We need clear rules and ways to hold people accountable.
So it's about balancing innovation with responsible development.
Exactly.
We want progress,
Yeah.
but we want it to be ethical and benefit everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get back to the real-world applications.
Okay.
We've talked about education, business, healthcare.
Yeah.
Where else could LLMs and knowledge graphs make a difference?
What about personal assistants?
Okay, like Siri or Alexa?
Imagine them actually understanding your needs.
Right.
Not just based on what you've done before, but by using a knowledge graph of everything.
Wow.
They could give you personalized recommendations, even
Yeah.
anticipate what you need.
Like a personal concierge powered by AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about creative fields?
Okay.
LLMs could be amazing tools for writers, artists, musicians, helping them get over creative blocks, come up with new ideas,
Interesting.
even create new content.
Wow.
Imagine an LLM that analyzes your writing and suggests improvements,
That would be incredible.
or one that composes music based on your mood.
So it's not about replacing human creativity, it's about enhancing it.
Exactly. It's all about the synergy between human and machine.
I love that idea. Seems like LLMs and knowledge graphs could also help us tackle some of the world's biggest problems,
Oh, yeah,
like climate change.
for sure.
An LLM could analyze all that climate data and help us understand the problem better, maybe even find solutions.
Exactly. And in areas like poverty or disaster relief, LLMs could help organizations use resources more effectively,
Okay.
get aid to the right people, coordinate things better.
It's amazing to think about the positive impact this could have.
It really is.
But like we said, it's important to use these advancements responsibly.
Absolutely.
Make sure they benefit everyone.
Yeah, that's key.
Is there anything else you want to add about these applications or the ethical side of things?
One last thing.
Okay.
Accessibility.
Accessibility.
As we build these tools,
Yeah.
we need to make sure everyone can use them.
Right. Not just the tech expert.
Exactly. We need to democratize access to these technologies so everyone can benefit.
I completely agree. We've only just started to explore this world of possibilities.
We have.
It's exciting, but also a little daunting.
Yeah, but I think if we work together
Uh-huh.
with a focus on ethics and responsibility,
Right.
we can use these technologies to make a better future for everyone.
I'm optimistic.
Me too! It's an incredible time to be alive.
Now let's move on to our final thoughts,
Okay.
where we'll reflect on what we've learned
Yeah,
and think about what all this means for us as individuals.
that's good.
We've gone through a lot in this deep dive,
We have.
from the technical stuff about knowledge graphs and LLMs
All that complexity.
to the ethical questions
Yeah.
and all the amazing ways this could change things.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
It is. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all.
I know what you mean.
As we come to the end of our journey,
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring things back to us. Okay, how all of this affects us as individuals.
Right,
You know,
right.
people living in this crazy, fast-changing world.
Makes sense.
How can we, as people who are fascinated by knowledge,
Yeah.
use these advancements to learn and grow and make a difference?
That's a big question.
It is.
I think one of the most important things is that knowledge becomes more accessible.
Okay, how so?
With LLMs and knowledge graphs,
Yeah.
we can make tons of information understandable to everyone.
even if they're not experts.
Exactly.
Getting everyone a key to this huge library, a library that's always expanding,
It never stops growing.
but with so much information.
Yeah.
How do we know what's real, what's important? How do we filter out the noise?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is. How do we make sure we're not just drowning in information?
Well, I actually think LLMs and knowledge graphs can help us with that.
Really?
They give us tools to analyze information, to see different viewpoints,
Right.
to spot biases.
So it's about being more critical of what we see.
Exactly. We need to become more discerning.
Not just taking everything at face value.
Right.
So it's not just about absorbing information.
No.
It's about engaging with it, questioning it,
Yeah.
turning it into something meaningful,
We need to become knowledge creators.
not just consumers.
I like that.
And that brings me to personalized learning.
Yeah.
With LLMs, we can tailor learning to each individual.
It's the future of education.
Imagine a world where everyone has their own AI learning companion,
Guiding them through all the knowledge out there.
providing support along the way,
It's like a custom education.
designed just for you.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's going to be so important in the future.
Why is that?
Things are changing so fast.
Right.
We need to be able to learn new skills quickly.
And adapt. These technologies can help us do that.
They can give us the tools we need.
And the right mindset
For sure.
to deal with all the changes coming our way.
It's not just about what you know, it's about how you learn.
So true.
Yeah.
Now, what about creativity?
Yes, creativity.
LMs are becoming so advanced.
Yeah,
They're not just processing information anymore.
Right.
They're coming up with new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
creating things.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. Does that mean human creativity is over?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I think these advancements will actually make us more creative.
how so?
Instead of replacing artists, LLMs will become tools.
Tools for creativity.
Exactly. Helping us explore new ideas, break boundaries.
So it's not about machines taking over.
No.
It's about humans and machines working together.
To create something amazing.
It's about making our creativity even stronger.
I like that.
It seems like that's a big theme here.
Yeah.
It's about using technology to enhance our abilities,
Mhm.
to open up new possibilities,
To create a better future.
where knowledge isn't just information,
Right.
but a force for good.
Well said.
So what does this all mean for us?
It's a call to action.
A call to action. I like that.
We need to embrace these advancements.
Yeah.
Explore what they can do, ask the hard questions,
Be responsible
and use them to make the world a better place.
for everyone.
For everyone.
To our listeners out there,
Yeah.
join us on this journey.
Explore, ask questions, challenge the status quo.
Let's work together to unlock the power of knowledge.
It's out there waiting for us.
Until next time, keep on exploring.